The Hawk started watching wrestling regularly during the Invasion angle of 2001, and despite how poorly it was booked, terrible in fact, it still holds a place in my heart. One of my favourite guys during that time was Rhyno. I've always gravitated towards mid-card wrestlers. I think there's something in rooting for a guy to succeed and move up the card. Whilst Rhyno never really did that, he had a stellar career, stayed healthy and kept popping back up in the WWE throughout the years. And for Ring of the Hawk today, it's going to be one of those years that he popped back up. The year was 2015, and Rhyno had just finished up on yet another TNA return. He re-signed with the WWE at the age of 40, and this time he'd end up on the NXT brand. I guess they wanted the nostalgia pop with less and less guys from the Attitude Era still wrestling at this point. Talking of wanted, this video was requested and wanted on YouTube by Jajanka98, possibly on Patreon too, but my head is scrambled like eggs. If you want to make the Hawk talk, sign up today. Okay, it's Rhyno, 10 pounds of gravy, or was he the opposite of lazy? Match 1, here he is then. More like 5 pounds of gravy back then. Rhyno looks extremely happy to be back and the crowd squirt blood in their thongs with excitement. He takes on Elijah/Elias before he was the musical moron. He gets into a fist fight with Rhyno which goes badly. Rhyno throws him with a belly to belly and finishes him off with the gore in about 30 seconds. Rhyno looks pretty great, better than I remember him looking in this era. The crowd love this man. Short and sweet just like Rhyno, but I'd like to see more of him after this. The re-debut is a C. Match 2, Rhyno vs Jesus de Leon. This jobber will be in need of a bit of a spiritual uprising after he faces Rhyno. Rhyno dump tackles him into the corner and then throws him with the other way of a belly to belly. The gore then finishes it off. Exactly the same as the last match, but somehow even shorter. Differently to the last match though, Rhyno cuts a promo after. He wants the NXT World title, and if you get in his way, you'll get a gore. Enjoying seeing where this run heads, he has a bit of momentum right now, another C. Match 3, main event of NXT, Sami Zayn vs Rhyno. This crowd don't seem to be friendly to him this week, perhaps due to Sami's popularity. A slow and cautious start from Sami Zayn. Rhyno barges him down for the first knockdown. Zayn changes tactic and starts using speed, which leads to a head scissors. Now it's Rhyno who's looking cautious. Sami continues to look like a threat with a dropkick before Rhyno flattens him with a clothesline. Zayn is the number one contender at this point, so Rhyno sees this as a way to cut in the line. Sami hits a nice crossbody, but he isn't learning from his past mistakes. He tries to have a strike off with Rhyno again. The War Machine hits him with a big time spinebuster for a 2. The match is slowed again with Rhyno whipping him around the ring. He hits some spears in the corner with the crowd pretty much in silence. That gets Rhyno a 2. Sami drags himself back up using Rhyno. Zayn is now awake and he fights back like a little girl in the school playground. He hits a Blue Thunder bomb for a 2 count. Zayn flies with another crossbody, but this one is caught and Rhyno hits the TKO, just a 2. The ref has to check if Sami can still continue. He can. Randomly, Rhyno looks to be trying the Rhino driver, which Sami has countered. Zayn hits him with a big flip dive out of the ring. Rhyno pretty much no-sells that and pops off a belly to belly. Unlike the previous jobbers, Sami dodges the gore and Sami wins the match with a big boot in the corner. Well, I guess that pretty much puts Rhyno's title aspirations to bed. Enjoyed this one, even if Rhyno did look a bit limited. Yet another C. Match 4, Rhyno vs Jesus de Leon again, and just like last time, it goes down exactly the same, with Rhyno winning. Thought we'd be past this by now. He needed something after losing to Sami Zayn, but we didn't get anything. It's a D for lack of progression. Match 5, Bull Dempsey takes on Rhyno. Rhyno looks like the man that Dempsey always wanted to be. It starts with a frantic brawl. Rhyno scores the first knockdown and then he throws Dempsey with the belly to belly. The gore connects and it's over. I thought we were going to be getting a bit more of a match here. This could have been a decent spectacle, definitely disappointing. At least Rhyno gets to talk after the match. He calls out someone else who is being an unstoppable force in NXT, and that man is Baron Corbin. It's a D. Match 6, NXT TakeOver Unstoppable, Rhyno vs Baron Corbin. Rhyno quickly barges him down and woos with happiness for some reason. Rhyno keeps trying to send Corbin out of the ring, but he doesn't seem to want to stay out there. Nothing happens, and they come back to the ring where Corbin shoves Rhyno off the top and back to the outside. Corbin drives him into the apron, and that's all that happens. Can we please stop trying to get out there now? Corbin slowly works Rhyno around the ring. Rhyno is not used to being manhandled like this. The Baron destroys him in the corner, and the ref has to drag him off. Eventually, there's a meeting of the minds for a double down. Baron Corbin still has enough in the tank to fight off a belly to belly, but he runs straight into a spinebuster for a 2 count. Rhyno then does hit the belly to belly, not the cleanest of all time, and Baron Corbin reverses the gore with a clothesline. The end of days is the end of the match. Slightly slow and boring, it's a D. Match 7, Rhyno with another high profile match here as he faces Finn Balor. Rhyno's got about a £100 weight advantage here, so see if that works for him. Rhyno is working this one as a heel. Balor keeps outspeeding him and he kicks Rhyno out the ring. Before Balor can dive, Rhyno charges back into the ring to take him out. Rhyno hits shoulders and headbutts in the corner. Balor keeps flying at him like a pesky mosquito. Balor once again kicks Rhyno out the ring, this time he can hit a flip dive. We come back for an advert break and Rhyno is back in control as he squashes Balor with a power slam. The match has really slowed down at this point. Rhyno does show some character here by stealing Finn Balor's taunt. That surprisingly doesn't distract him much and Rhyno hits a gorilla press slam for a 2. Finn Balor manages a flying forearm eventually for a 2 count. Rhyno then slips out of a reverse DDT and he hits a spine buster for yet another 2. But the grease is truly flying in this match as Balor slips out of a short clothesline and hits a Pele kick. He hits the swing blade for a double down. Finn Balor's fully awake now and hits a corner drop kick but misses his double stomp. Balor dodges Rhyno's gore and rolls him up for the 3. Seems like Rhyno is probably just here to do the JOB to the up and coming main eventers. Nothing wrong with that at all, so long as Rhyno does get the odd meaningful win so he himself doesn't become worthless. Fun match, it's a B. Rhyno possibly turns heel after the match with a gore to him on the stage. Or maybe he was just being a dick. Match 8, Finn Balor vs Rhyno again. Balor tries to show some aggression and anger after Rhyno's attacking him over the weeks. Finn sidesteps Rhyno out of the ring and hits the flip dive onto the ramp. Rhyno responds in the ring with a spine buster. He looks shocked, it's just a 2 count, although he's probably never beaten anybody with that move. Much slower affair than their match last time. The War Machine works on a bear hug for a while. Balor fights out of that and hits a diving drop kick for a 2. Rhyno does escape his DDT and he hits an overhead suplex. Nice to see a new move. Rhyno hits spears in the corner, not once, not twice, but thrice, and it sure wasn't nice. Just like the last match, Finn dodges a clothesline and hits a Pele kick. It doesn't take Rhyno down, but another kick when he's on the top ropes does. Finn's about to fly when Kevin Owens plunders down the ramp. Finn gets rid of him, but it allows Rhyno to hit the belly to belly. Some of the crowd do seem to want Rhyno to win this one, but his gore is just met with a kick. Finn hits the swing blade and finishes off Rhyno with a diving double stomp. Not as good as their last match, it's a C. Match 9, tag match, Finn Balor and Samoan Joe take on Rhyno and Kevin Owens. Rhyno will start out with Joe, which would have been a great matchup a decade earlier, but it's still not half bad here. Joe looks in the mood and he hits a big enziguri kick in the corner and tags Finn. Balor has the tag and he drop kicks Rhyno. He tags out. He's gone for ages, but gets the tag back in with Finn. Rhyno is still wooing and having a good old time. He does a 30-second delayed suplex whilst doing squats at the same time. Pretty cool, but just a 2 count. He tags out again. Rhyno and Joe get to fight again. Joe bashes him all over the ring with familiar offense. Wouldn't mind a singles match between these two. Kevin Owens takes a cheap shot, allowing Rhyno to hit a spine buster for a 2, and Rhyno tags out. Everybody is hitting their big moves, but they've forgotten Rhyno. Balor sidesteps the gore as Rhyno hits his own guy. Owens does have some padding, so he's not too hurt, but then Rhyno is drop kicked on top of him in the corner. Finn Balor wins the match with a double stomp on Owens. Man, Rhyno doesn't look like he belongs in the main event at this point. He hasn't had enough wins to establish himself, and before match 10, the intrigue and momentum has completely vanished. A D. Match 10, okay, looks like I'm gonna get what I wanted. It's Samoan Joe versus Rhyno in the NXT main event. We start off with a barging battle, but Joe will not go down. But when it's Rhyno's turn, he goes down easily. Samoan Joe batters Rhyno down in the corner. Joe sends Rhyno out of the ring and hits a big time tope. Back in the ring and Joe is still dominating, he hits the big corner kick. Finally, Rhyno hits the spine buster, about time he did something here. Back from an advert break and Joe hits an STO for a double down. Samoan Joe is awake now and he hits the atomic drop, the big boot and the back senton for a 2. Randomly, Rhyno just picks Joe up and starts walking around and hits a TKO for a 2. Joe recovers with a diving leg lariat for a 2 of his own. Rhyno then fights off the Kokida clutch and hits a belly to belly. As usual, Rhyno can't hit the gore as Joe boots him away. Rhyno does manage to fight off the clutch again and clotheslines Joe down for a 2 count, but like an idiot, Rhyno climbs to the top rope. Of course, Joe kicks him and hits the muscle buster for the 3. Fun match, but I didn't believe for a second that Rhyno was going to win here because he's just a jobber to the stars, as he. Match 11, tag tournament match, The Ascension, Connor the Rat and Victor take on Rhyno and his partner Baron Corbin. Rhyno to start with Victor. Victor starts out better with a rolling shoulder tackle. Rhyno tags out, not a good start. It's just not a good match. Rhyno spends most of it getting beaten up. Connor the Rat gives him a flapjack, but Rhyno actually hits the gore in this match, which is a nice change. I mean, why are you even going to book this guy if you're hardly having him hit the move that people paid to see? Rhyno for a rare win here, it's a D. Match 12, tag tournament match. Rhyno and Baron Corbin take on Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa. Rhyno starts with Ciampa, screaming "Who's the man" in his face and hitting chops. Ciampa somehow wins the strike battle with Rhyno and he knocks him down with a clothesline. Ciampa and Gargano start teaming up on Rhyno. Rhyno is thrown out the ring and Gargano dives on top of him. Ciampa isn't done and hits a top rope crossbody onto the Dream Team. They start to work on Rhyno's arm. They hit double kicks to him in the corner, but Ciampa is too weak to hit a German on him and Rhyno clotheslines him and tags out. Our team are winning, but not a lot is happening. Rhyno tries to superplex Ciampa, who fights it off and hits a missile dropkick. Tags are made. Corbin tries to throw Gargano into a gore, which misses. It doesn't matter and Corbin wins with the end of the days. It's an S, nothing to see here. Match 13, NXT TakeOver Respect. Tag tournament match. Chad Gable and the son of Peak Angle, Jason Jordan, take on Rhyno and Baron Corbin. Man, Jason Jordan could have been a lot of fun. It's a shame he didn't have the success of his partner. Rhyno is confused about having to face him. He feels like he's been here before, somehow familiar. Jordan takes him down by the waist and almost rolls up Rhyno. Gable comes in with a sunset flip for a 1 count. Chad Gable is immensely popular even back here. Rhyno doesn't care about that, he shoulder tackles Gable down. Gable desperately fights off a TKO and tags out. Jordan comes in with a double axe to Rhyno's arm. Gable and Jordan hit a double team Northern Lights for a 2. Gable gets Rhyno in an armbar across the ropes. That just seems to anger Rhyno, who smashes him to the outside. Rhyno is now wooing with happiness. Not much happens for a while until Rhyno randomly tries a top rope splash, which of course misses. Jason Jordan gets the tag and he clears Rhyno from the ring. He returns, throwing Jordan with a belly to belly and everybody is down. Rhyno does manage to hit the gore to Jason Jordan, but neither man is legal. Corbin beats Gable with the end of the days. Seems like a strange choice having Rhyno and Baron Corbin make the finals. It's a B, I enjoyed this one a fair bit. Match 14, later that same night, tag tournament final. Baron Corbin and Rhyno versus Samoa Joe and Finn Balor. Rhyno to start with Balor, a man who truly has his number. Rhyno is actually scared of Balor and tags out, seems quite wise. He returns with Joe, hitting a corner clothesline and wooing with happiness. The belly to belly gets Rhyno a 2. Rhyno doesn't really seem to be that involved in this match, so I think this tag team is just a vehicle to try and help Baron Corbin. I do like Rhyno's punch to leg sweep Finn Balor off the apron though. We go back to Corbin doing everything. Samoa Joe gets a hot tag and hits his familiar flurry of offense to Rhyno. Differently this time, Joe hits him with a Uranagi. Joe gets distracted with Corbin, and Rhyno hits the gore to Joe. Finn Balor saves the pin. Rhyno tries to hit another gore to Joe, but this one is blocked, and Joe charges Rhyno into the corner to hit the Muscle Buster. Balor finishes off Rhyno with the coup de grace. Good match, but Rhyno was almost a non-factor. It's a C due to pulling double duty on this show. Match 15, Battle Royal. Rhyno and Corbin still seem to have some sort of allegiance, even though they didn't win the tag tournament. Surprisingly, Rhyno actually eliminates someone when he throws out Bull Dempsey over the top rope. Rhyno seems to be drawn to Samoa Joe in this match like he has his own field of gravity. Corbin suddenly double crosses Rhyno to eliminate him to end their friendship. The cameraman did his best to miss this massive moment, a D for 1 elimination. Match 16, final match. I guess this is the big climax to his run as this incredible storyline is about to come full circle. It's Baron Corbin versus Rhyno. Nobody believes in Rhyno at this point, but he's still bringing it. It's possibly one of the most boring matches of all time. They fight on the outside, nothing happens. They fight on the inside, nothing happens. These two have the chemistry of a dead owl and a burnt pork pie. Corbin hits a side slam, which admittedly is pretty much the only thing I liked about this match. Rhyno hits the gore and Corbin kicks out, which really annoyed me and sums up this entire run. He can hang with the main eventers, but can't get the JOB done. His second gore is countered into the end of days to end this run. Game over. After this, Rhyno was called up to the main roster where he ended up having a fairly successful tag team run with Heath and captured the tag belts, and he ended up employed by the WWE for 3 years. Look, let's call a spade a spade. This run was just here to try and get the up and coming NXT guys a rub off working with a monster like Rhyno. He could clearly still go, but there wasn't much in the way of balls to the wall action. But halfway through this run, beating Rhyno was no longer a big deal because everybody had done it. He needed some more damn wins to keep the allure that he was a main eventer. I did enjoy most of this run, but at the same time I felt disappointed. I believe a final grade of a low C is completely correct, and if you don't agree with that, you'll get decked.